Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgie Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Zimbabwe's sacked nurses return to work but say that pay and condition grievances that sparked last week's walkout still stand. Also, Nigeria keeps up the battle to contain an outbreak of Lassa fever, which has claimed at least 105 lives. There's been a steep decline in the number of cases, but health officials warn against complacency. And in Nigeria, having long taken a backseat in a country where football is king, more and more sports enthusiasts are willing to throw their hat into the ring and give boxing a go. We take a closer look. But first, the union representing Zimbabwe's nurses has instructed their members to head back to work as they wait for fresh negotiations with the government. Thousands of nurses were sacked over industrial action last week, and they say that though they're back to treating their patients, their grievances still stand.
Business as usual. On Monday, thousands of nurses were accepted back at work as they ended a week-long strike that last Wednesday saw the government sack 16,000 of them. Hospital staff say they lack the funds for basic medical supplies and are struggling to make ends meet on their current incomes.
I'm not able to give my kids what they deserve to get. Even the school that I'm sending my children is not the school that they are supposed to go to. As a nurse, I expect to send my child to an A school, but they just go to a B school because I cannot afford with my salary.
Last Wednesday, nurses learned they'd been fired en masse in a television announcement in which Vice President Constantino Chiwenga accused them of not caring about their patients. Demonstrators remained defiant. They accused authorities of having acted illegally and threatened legal action over the sackings. The government's decision also sparked public outrage, with many people voicing their support for the hospital staff.
I'm a concerned Zimbabwean citizen. It's very sad that the government decides to fire nurses, all nurses at this point, when our government hospitals are full with patients that need help.
The hospital is non-existent. There are no medications. We, the people, have to buy each and everything that we have to use in Paranyatwa. So why should I not understand what the nurses are talking about when they say we need medications in hospital?
This isn't the first strike that Zimbabwe has had to face from the medical sector. Doctors went on strike for over a month in March, crippling the health sector, but eventually winning higher salaries. The government has promised to pay $17 million in outstanding allowances to nurses, but members of the nurses' union, Zina, say that won't be enough to cover what they are owed.
Well, Zimbabwe is setting up its first ever courts charged with specialising in cases of political violence. President Emmerson Mnangagwa has pledged to deliver free and fair elections in July. And there is a push to clamp down on unrest and intimidation ahead of the polls. Under former leader Robert Mugabe, past elections were marred by intimidation of the opposition. Mnangagwa has also invited Western observers for the first time since 2002. Well, there were more protests in Madagascar on Monday as crowds gathered in honour of the 2 people killed and 16 injured in demonstrations over the weekend that the president damned as an attempted coup. Security forces have cracked down on demonstrations against new electoral laws that the opposition claim could bar some candidates from standing in upcoming presidential elections. Africa's Premier Soccer League has promised a full investigation into the stadium riot in which at least 18 people were injured over the weekend. Fans of the Kaizer Chiefs set stands on fire, invaded the pitch and attacked security officials following the 2-0 loss to Free State Stars at Moses Madiba Stadium in Durban on Saturday. 2 people have been arrested so far. The Kaizer Chiefs team is reportedly facing disciplinary procedures. National Soccer Chiefs say that they'll come down hard on football hooliganism.
There is no place, no justification for violence in football or in our society, no place. The damage that these senseless acts of violence cause take more than a generation to correct. These acts are not coincidental. They are deliberate, premeditated, and orchestrated by people whose aim is criminality and an infringement of the majority who are peace-loving and law-abiding.
There's been a steady decline in cases of and deaths from Lassa fever in Nigeria. From a peak of 70 cases recorded a week in February, it was down to only 5 a week by the end of the week of April 15th. Now, the country's been fighting to contain the outbreak since the start of the year, and at least 105 people have died so far. Despite the declining trends, health officials are still cautious. Anna Cunningham tells us more.
It is in labs like this at one of Lagos's biggest public hospitals that scientists are in a race against time, trying to beat Lassa fever. Since January, Nigeria has recorded more than 400 confirmed cases of the disease across multiple states. It has been essential to track and trace every single case to evaluate how the disease is spreading.
We're looking at a number of strains that we've detected in our lab, trying to use sequencing to see the kind of relatedness between the viruses and to even see how the virus moves.
Lassa fever is endemic in Nigeria and other West African countries. It is transmitted via the feces or urine of infected rats and leads to an acute viral hemorrhagic illness. Early diagnosis and support can increase survival rates. Experts at this centre in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have been tracking its spread. As confirmed cases reduce, they want to ensure awareness remains high.
Initially, what we were doing was to make sure we manage the cases and stop the spread. And so now that the numbers are coming down, we're going into more other interventions, creating more awareness, finding out if the cases are still there, and then preparing for more research work.
In Lagos, a city of some 21 million, there is an elevated concern. It was in this city that Ebola was stopped from spreading across Nigeria in 2014. But doctors remain alert that people visit daily from other states and could potentially spread Lassa fever.
Even though now the index case is not in Lagos, but we're still very proactive because Lagos is a city that houses almost other cities, okay? So whoever has any case anywhere would want to come to Lagos for whatever reason. So we are very prepared.
There is currently no vaccine that prevents Lassa fever, but experts hope a downturn in cases and continued monitoring will bring this outbreak under their control.
Well, boxing is becoming increasingly popular in Nigeria. Long benched in a country where football is king, more and more sports enthusiasts are now willing to throw their hat into the ring and give boxing a go.
Cynthia knew nothing about boxing until she saw a match on TV 2 years ago. Since then, the sport has changed her life. In Bariga, a poor suburb of Lagos, she trains every weekend with dozens of other young people. At 17, she dreams of becoming a professional boxer to support her family.
I want to be a champion and a great person in the future. I want to be rich, and I know by God's grace, my God will surely help me.
For the past 13 years, Cynthia's coach, Always Kazim, has been volunteering at the local primary school's youth centre. There's no boxing ring, but that hasn't stopped them from fighting on the dusty ground in the scorching heat.
Boxing is now growing up in Nigeria, which is very good now. I thank Nigeria for doing that. But we still need their help in Nigeria to support boxing. Lagos State, Nigeria, in other states, we need Nigeria to support boxing. Boxing is not easy.
In the 1950s and 60s, Nigeria produced some of the best boxers in Africa, bringing home several Olympic medals. But that golden age has long passed, with boxing overshadowed by athletics and football, a sport that has produced several Nigerian superstars. But with the creation of special TV channels promoting the sport, boxing is beginning to appeal to a broader market.
Sustainable platform for everyone to train safely in a neat, clean environment, and also get the authentic experience of boxing. Because unlike other countries outside of Nigeria, in Nigeria, boxing really is only for the working class. So we're trying to change that perception, because I personally feel that it's for everybody.
Most Nigerian champions are training abroad, but thanks to such support, both amateurs and professionals are facing off in the ring for an ever-growing audience.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
Revisited, presented by Stuart Norval.
Screams, violence, sickness and death. The story of the Catholic orphanage in Chumin Island has touched hearts throughout the land. A closed-off hell from which almost 800 children never emerged. The mystery endured until the discovery of a mass grave in 1996. Why did no one investigate 50 years ago when children were seen playing with human skulls? Survivors talk about their pain and the reconstruction of their stolen childhoods.
Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.